This will be recorded for training and marketing purposes. Hi, I'm Ethan Estes. I'm a digital marketing assistant at iCheckGateway.com, and we'll be starting this new web series where I'll be interviewing CEOs and founders of companies to learn about and educate on different industries throughout the nation. Today, I'm speaking with co-founder of Bell Media Group, Kyra Denlinger, and I'll be asking her an assortment of questions to learn about her experience as an entrepreneur. Kyra, thank you so much for meeting me. Happy to have you here. How are you doing? What's new with you?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate you having me on, especially for one of the first recordings of your new show. Doing really well. Looking forward to the call today.
Perfect. All right, well, let's get started with some of these questions. The first question I want to ask you is, what initially attracted you to this company that you're at? What's the what drove you to start it?
It's a funny question. What drove me to start it? I guess more than anything, my husband and I were always looking for an opportunity to work together, and both of us love a challenge. We cannot say no to a challenge. So our business started very small. We did not have, grand aspirations of quitting our day jobs or hiring employees or having a full-time marketing company or doing half the things that we're doing. We just wanted to do something together. We thought we could make a difference. We were always kind of entrepreneurially driven. So we started just doing very small freelance work. I had worked in the marketing space. My husband worked in the sales space. And so we found that, marketing and pooling our skills together created, kind of a match made in heaven. So that's really where it took off from there. And as I've gotten deeper into it, I think the thing that still attracts me about the marketing industry is the combination of art and science, if you will. There's a very analytical, data-driven, strategic, almost mathematical piece to marketing. But then there's this intangible thing that you can't touch. There's beauty, there's interest, there's drama. And so I really like the bringing of those two worlds together.
Wow, yeah, well said, well said. How do you feel about your company's culture? How is that going?
I love our company culture, and it's a slightly unique, maybe not so unique as it was before the pandemic, but we're a fully remote distributed team, with the exception of my husband and I, who work in the same house and often, in the same room. But beyond that, our employees and our contractors are all remote. And so that was something that I was really, I don't want to say concerned about, but something I've been really interested to watch grow, because I came from a very traditional corporate background where it was 9 to 5 and office and commute and fancy shoes, like that's kind of the world that I came from. And so we were kind of like, how are we going to keep our culture cultural, or how are we going to have an identity when we're not really in each other's space all the time? So we've done a lot with digital communication. We use Slack heavily for our communications. We have weekly stand-ups with the full team. We have individual team member meetings. And we also try to do in-person things at least once or twice a month, usually not required. We try to give that opportunity to have FaceTime with the kids, the team. And I love it. I really love our digital communications. We meme each other. We make jokes. We send little videos and gifs, and that stuff's, it's fun. It's been good.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, I been through a similar experience. We've kind of moved to more remote working and stuff at iCheck Gateway, so I understand that completely. What do you enjoy most about your job? I remember you said you like to be challenged, but what more specifically in the marketing field do you enjoy most about it?
The thing I enjoy most about my job in marketing is taking something that's only an idea and maybe not even a fully formed idea, and bringing it to life and making it beautiful. Again, it could be, my favorite thing about my job is actually, it's not the sales meeting or the business development. My husband does a lot of that. It's the very next meeting right after that, where we've got the client, they're on board, they're excited, and we're like, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to achieve, how are we going to achieve your goals? So just hearing what they want to do, hearing the things that are special about their company, learning about their backstory, and then figuring out how to take that and make something that never existed before. Maybe it's a written word, maybe it's a video, maybe it's I don't know what it is. But this fact of pulling from things that don't yet exist, and the potential and the possibility, and then making those real.
I mean, yeah, that's amazing. I guess you're remote, so what motivates you to work every day? I guess it wouldn't be come to work every day because, you're not going in office, but what motivates you to, get up and go after it? Would it be a similar response to you creating something out of nothing?
It's funny. Yeah, I would say so. I think that motivation comes through in the sense that, yeah, I do. I feel like I have a motivation to, again, create those things, create beauty, do a good job. It is a different scene, though, for sure, when you're the owner and when you work remotely, because there's nobody to hold your feet to the fire other than yourself. Like if you're having a lazy day or it's nice outside or you don't feel like it, or yeah, just got a new video game, it's like some of that stuff can really, call your name. And so really at the end of the day, I think it just is commitment and discipline. I also I hate having things on my to-do list. I hate having
Mm,
something hanging over my head. So I'm very much somebody who will work hard now to play later, if that makes
work hard,
sense.
play hard.
Yes, not that we
Yes,
don't ever, take off on a Tuesday afternoon or,
for
you go to breakfast on a Friday morning, I still do those things sometimes because, you got to live a little bit. And that's one of the perks of being a business owner and working remotely. Um, but yeah, I would say combination of like internal, external motivation, probably mostly internal. I just want to do that good job
some
and
like
get that
self
stuff off my
accountability.
to-do list. That's right. Yeah.
I see. Very nice. What would you say your company's biggest strength is?
I think our company's biggest strength is that we do for ourselves what we do for our clients. So
Mm,
our marketing company specializes in social media and kind of content creation and storytelling. So our my husband and I run personal accounts. We have influencer accounts where we have like 30,000 followers on Instagram and 229,000 followers on TikTok. And it's
wow.
totally unrelated to marketing and doesn't have anything to do with it. It's a wellness channel. But that's something that, we do that. We walk the walk. Our graphic designer is, extraordinary. And he does art for himself, and he freelances and still does some really interesting projects because his art is just amazing. And again, our social media specialist, she doesn't go too hard into the influencing. But again, in her personal life, she's a beautiful photographer, makes really cute little like reels and neat things. And she's, everybody kind of their areas of interest, they're passionate about them. They would do them outside of work if they weren't doing them for work. And so I think we get to
Mm,
leverage those skills and abilities and those passions directly for our clients. And I think that's something that really sets us apart.
wow. I mean, yeah, just taking your loves and your hobbies and turning it into something where you can make a career off of. Yeah, I mean, that's the end.
Yeah.
That's the dream, right? That's the dream.
It is. And even like this weekend, I went for a hike on Sunday morning just because I was feeling a little bit unsettled. And I brought along one of our creator cams and I didn't plan it, but I was like, I'm going to make a video. Like, I'm going to make a video this morning because I'm always making videos for clients or, recording somebody else or interviewing. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a video, just for me. And I think I am going to post it later this week on Friday. But yeah, like that's combining again my love of nature, which is
It's like a
extreme.
great
You know what
nature
I mean?
vlog. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
What would you say is one of your biggest long-term goals, and how does this career help you achieve that?
Mm. I think one of my biggest long-term goals is to eventually to teach or to train in a more specific way. So whether that be maybe teaching college or writing a book or having some kind of program. I worked a lot with kids and with training, and actually went through a master's degree in education many moons ago now. And I haven't really revisited that part of my life much. We occasionally do some trainings or do some, we do a little bit of that. But I would really like to feel confident that if I'm going to go out truly as an expert, truly as a teacher, a trainer, a coach, a consultant, a professor, whatever that looks like, I want to not just have talk the talk, but I want to have walked the walk. I want to say, I've been there, I've done this, I've achieved, because that, if I haven't done those things, I want to say who's going to listen to me because, people may still, but I want to approach that phase of my life with confidence, knowing that I've done everything that I can do to help others take those steps when they're ready.
Well, I mean, talking about the degree in education, I mean, how has that benefited you with marketing? I mean, I feel like you could really interact a lot better and explain things to customers and clients and even your own team. I mean, how's that affected it?
You know what? It does. You're really right about that, Ethan, because I'm often like, oh, I wasted $30,000 on my master's degree that I never used because I got through student teaching and I was like, I don't want to do this. So I'm like, I thought that for many years, like what a waste. I wasted all that money. But you're exactly right. It really has helped with being able to take complex information and break it down for a client and make it easy. It's also helped in terms of my planning because, again, getting into that master's level coursework, you're not just doing, kind of the lesson plannings, you're doing like the higher level, like kind of strategic thinking of orchestrating information and making things palatable. And again, taking that complex to simple. So I feel like I got a lot of practice doing that in a more academic setting, and that definitely has applied to the business.
I feel like it would definitely prepare you to be a rock star team leader because not only can you explain things much easier to your team, but you can also plan it and you have a lot of experience doing that. I mean, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. No, it does help. So I guess it wasn't a total waste, but
Nah. Any skills that you can utilize. Yeah. Well, speaking of skills, do you feel that your skills and abilities are fully utilized in this role?
they are. They are to a degree, but I think the thing I would say is, I feel like my skills and abilities are fully utilizing it, maybe a little bit lacking in that communication, education, teaching piece, where again, I feel like I have a little bit of a skill or proclivity for that, and I don't use that as often. But the thing it makes me think of is the skills and abilities that it's required me to develop that are not my best skills and abilities, but I have to function in them anyways. And I think any business owner, leader, CEO, especially in the early stages of their career, would probably experience something similar, where you really get stretched to operate in ways that aren't in your area of best ability. And sometimes I complain about it. Sometimes that it's like, like I'm doing this like PMing and like maintenance isn't my strong suit, but I got to do it anyway. Sometimes it's easy for me to get a little bit frustrated by that. But again, it's such a gift to be able to have so much flexibility and so much change in my workday, and to be able to flex, a broad skill set and use a little bit of this and the thing I learned here and the thing I got over there. It really is a gift to be able to use all that stuff in one role.
So you say being thrown into the fire and put into positions where you're having to use skills that you'd otherwise be uncomfortable using has helped you develop them?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think I could say it any better than that. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, how do you feel about the management style in your department? I mean, obviously you're the co-founder, so you have a
Yeah.
lot of a big take on that, but what about other departments?
Yeah, I think I would say, again, because we are a smaller team. I think that I would say the management style. I would consider Zach and I probably both equivalent. When it comes to the management or the oversight of our team or our departments. I think it's really good that both of us are in it together because we fill each other's strengths. I think when it comes to the employee kind of management or that style, I think we approach it differently. Zach is more direct than I am, and sometimes that's really important and is needed, especially if you're dealing, some employees and some contractors and some clients prefer that more direct approach. Whereas others, if you're too direct with them, sometimes they can shut down, or you can hurt feelings, or you can, that can be counterproductive depending on who you're
Mhm.
dealing with. So having the two of us kind of in like a co-leadership role is helpful because, again, we'll tackle different situations with different employees or contractors or vendors kind of based on the situation as it arises. So I guess I'd say it's flexible. It's flexible and a good mix, I think, of direct and compassion. And I think I think it's gone well.
Like a dynamic duo, your skills complement each other.
We're yin and
Very
yang,
nice.
as we always say. So.
That's awesome. How has your role evolved since you started this company? I mean, you and your husband began it, but obviously there had to be some changes and some more tasks you take on. I mean, what was it like at the beginning, and then what is it now?
Yeah, it's definitely evolved and in ways that I'm really happy about. Again, in the beginning, maybe others who go through a different type of entrepreneurship journey or a different type of starting a business, we didn't start with any capital. So we didn't start with
Mhm.
investment. We didn't get a loan. We just bootstrapped the whole thing, what I mean, kind of from the ground up. So in the beginning, the thing that was probably the most difficult was this combination of I was doing a lot of the creative work. So again, I've worked in marketing for many years, can do a little bit of all of it, but I was doing the vast majority of the creative work while also trying to be a good partner in the execution and the growth of the business, which are two very different skill sets. I don't know if you've worked with creatives often or know them, but we can be, they're their own breed. And so when you are, and I would call myself one, I would call myself a creative, but it's just a very different way of functioning during your day than being a business leader. And so that was very difficult for me, trying to have the mental and emotional bandwidth to be a good creator and a good businesswoman. And so that was difficult. So again, as we grew and when we took on our first 2 employees last year, they came on, that was allowed me to free myself a little bit from the daily grind and to really step into more of that role of leader and facilitator and orchestrator rather than worker. And not that there's anything wrong. I still love to work. I love working. I will work as long as I can work. It's not about not wanting to work anymore. It's about not wanting to work in so many different capacities. This hat, this hat, this hat, this hat. And there's still a lot of them, but there's just 6 now instead of 15. So
that must make it a lot much easier.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the company's work-life balance policies? Like you said, it seems like you guys have a lot of a good company culture. You've got your meetings once a month and stuff like that. But what about work-life balance? You play hard, work hard. What are some examples of you playing hard?
Yeah, I have to say, again, I don't know if it's maybe just because we're a little bit on, the younger side of the workforce. We're in our 30s, or 36. So not super spring chickens anymore, but because I think we were raised a little bit differently and grew up in a little bit of a different world, we are proud of the work-life balance that we offer. We do not, we don't have like a vacation policy that you don't have a set number of days. We have like unlimited vacation. If you're sick, tell us you're sick and you don't feel well. And then, we cover you and we see what you need to do and we cover your hours or we cover your deliverables that day. And again, it's really fascinating because when we put in that unlimited vacation policy, it's like pulling teeth to get some of them to take it. You know what I mean? Because they, it's we're thinking about requiring everybody to take one personal day a month because one of our people, I think he may have taken 6 or 7 days in 2 years. You know what I mean? Because so it's interesting. But I would say I'm proud of that. As we grow, we may have to put in more guardrails. But while we're kind of still young and in the startup phase and small, like we don't track our people. We don't have mouse tickers on them. We don't require them to log in and out. They're salaried, you know what I mean? And there are times where, again, they have to work a weekend or come for a night or do a little bit of travel, for something that we're doing. And that's just kind of part of the gig. So like you said, the work hard, play hard. I think this is the type of job that younger people want. I don't think they want to necessarily be locked into a very traditional schedule. They want that flexibility, want that freedom. And if that's something that we're offering them and they want, we've found that they will give back to us. You know what I mean? Because it's that balance, that give and take. So.
Yeah, it seems like you guys promote self-health. That's, very encouraging for a younger generation.
Yeah.
What do you feel sets this company apart from others you may have worked in the past? So looking back at some old careers or jobs you may have had, like what are the biggest benefits you see coming from those? Sorry.
No, it's okay. From a very practical and kind of like, businessy perspective, I think one of the best benefits of this particular company is that our overhead is so low. Our biggest cost is our staff and our payroll, as many companies are, kind of regardless, across the board. It's usually a huge expense. But we have found ourselves to be somewhat immune to the supply chain issues. Even so, I don't want to say, the economy will ebb and flow, and sometimes, clients will need to cut back, or it can be a little, it's not that we're not impacted at all by the economy, but we don't have to worry about this goods and services and transportation and logistics because everything that we do can be executed online. The biggest risk to that is if anything ever happens to the internet, we're screwed. We're out of luck if the grid goes down or something. But as long as that doesn't happen, on a large scale for a long period, I think that's one of the biggest differences about this business versus, and I've worked in a lot of different ones, like food service, healthcare, I worked at Township. I've never really been in a business that has had this much freedom from the freedom to make its own way in the world without necessarily being super attached to the ebbs and flows of larger cultural and economic trends.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, after COVID and everyone went to working remotely, it just seemed like that's become one of the most popular ways. No one wants to go to an office. They want to be able to just sit in their room and do it from there and all that, or in their little
Yeah.
office building. I mean, well, yeah,
Yeah.
office room.
Well, and it's funny because in the beginning, I didn't like it. I was still
Really?
working in corporate when the pandemic struck. I was still working in a corporate environment, and they sent us home. And after the first couple of weeks, I was miserable. I'm a people person. I missed
Oh,
people.
100%.
I missed being out. I didn't like feeling I was just like in my same four walls, breathing my same air. You know what I mean? Over and over. It was lonely. It was lonely. In the
I,
beginning, is what I would say.
I agree. I like the change of scenery. I enjoy kind of going into the office and being able to switch it up a little bit because,
Yeah.
when you're just
Well, it's
walking around the
funny.
house, sometimes it gets a little old.
It does. And it's like funny because I talked to Zach about it, my husband, my co-founder, and he said that he would never, ever, ever need to step foot in office again and he would be fine. Like if I for some reason went back to regular work, I'd be totally happy with like a hybrid schedule. I'd be fine going in, a couple days a week. But I am like spoiled now though. If I was required to be in the office, for 40 hours, 5 days a week, I don't think I'd take it anymore. You get a little bit too much of that taste of, again, that work-life balance question, like you asked before. I know it's so cliched, but being able to take the dog for a walk at lunchtime or throw in a load of laundry, like when I need a brain break, like that is huge. Those little teeny tiny things are huge for your mental health, especially as you like adult more and more. Like it's really helpful.
Once you got a taste of it, kind of just changed your perspective, didn't want to go back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What would you say your company's most significant challenges have been so far, and how have you overcome them?
I would say probably two things, two of the big challenges. The first one I feel like we've kind of have solved and have gotten to the bottom of it. The other one we're kind of still working through. And the first one is just kind of making these decisions, oddly enough, about spacing and work spacing and communication and the right tools for being in a remote environment. We actually did have an office for 6 to 8 months, maybe even a little bit less than that. Like we did get an office. We're like, oh, we're growing. We have funds for this. We need to have some kind of storefront or presence, for people to take it seriously. So we did, but then we found that we barely used it. We were always like, well, we didn't want to like go out and fight the traffic, or we just wanted to stay from home. But we really were into this idea of like, oh, we need a storefront, and it'd also be a place for the team to collaborate. Like we felt like we had to do that. But just as we got into it, we just found that we just weren't using it. And so we had to kind of make this decision, how important is this? Does this matter to other people? Just because maybe we're like, lazy and want to stay in our jammies, does this really help, in terms of our business health and reputation? So oddly enough, it was a small thing, but it always really stuck out to me. Zach put out a poll on LinkedIn because he had a lot of LinkedIn connections. He's active on it. I'm not really, but he put out a poll on LinkedIn and he asked them, would you care if your marketing company was fully remote, and didn't have like a space or whatever? And out of like 30 responses he got, 29 said they wouldn't care. They wouldn't care.
Wow.
So we're like, and again, this is COVID times and the world has changed. The answer might have been different 5 years ago. But I mean, for 29 out of 30 people, or however, I can't remember, it was close to that, said they would not care at all. And so that really kind of opened our eyes to like, like maybe we're just being insecure about this. Maybe we don't need that storefront kind of a feel to let people know that we're legit. Maybe our work really can just speak for itself. But then with that, again, that we vetted a whole bunch of collaboration tools. So again, we're currently on Slack and Asana for our project management. But we must have cycled through like 4 or 5 different project management things, different communications, Google Drive, Dropbox, like all these different, digital ecosystems, figure out, how are we going to make this work for our team? So that was a big challenge, but I'd say I feel like we're in a good flow now, but I'm sure that will change because as the world continues to change, technology changes, I'm sure that'll continue to be something for us. And the other one, briefly, I don't even have much to say about it because we always struggle with it, is just pricing. It's really hard to, while we're not tied to like the supply chain and we don't have those types of factors, those also don't set prices for us. We don't have to worry about cost of goods. We don't have to worry about inventory. But at the same time, it's like, well, what do we charge? Like what will somebody pay for this? What's a fair rate? How do we honor our work and how do we not punish ourselves for being fast and good? And so just, pricing has always been a challenge. So.
What skills have you developed over the years that you've been able to bring into your career? What you mentioned earlier, some that you got thrown in the fire and kind of had to just learn it on a whim and develop those. But what are some more specific about those?
Yeah. So one of those, say, oddly enough, is a real skill, and I still don't feel like I'm that good at it, is networking. Which is odd because, again, I'm a very social person. I'm an extrovert, but for some reason, I have a lot of head trash when it comes to walking into a networking event. Like I get all like, I don't know what to say. Like, what if I don't have good conversation? Like, what if like, how do you just like start talking to somebody you don't know? Like, hey, what do you do? You know, and not sound like a total like nerd. And so I would say
I've
that
never heard you put
networking.
his head trash before. That's funny. Yeah.
I think it's actually an ism from one of our clients. He's a sales trainer, and he uses head trash. But yeah, so that's something. And even just sitting at the table with other business owners and with more high powered, professionals. In the beginning, that used to make me really nervous as well. I remember we had one meeting like super, super, super early in our business growth, and it was just with one guy. And we were just kind of showing him some of our like products and services. I remember like sitting at that table at that cafe, like thinking I was gonna throw up because I was so nervous to like talk to this guy, which is again weird. Theater major, teacher, communications, like talker, extrovert, but for some reason in that business setting, I really had to learn how to get comfortable in that environment and fast because like you got to be comfortable because if you're not, it shows. You know what I mean? Everybody knows.
I'm definitely still working on that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say that would
You know,
definitely be one. And then I would say maybe just another one that came to my mind too, again, from a very much more practical perspective, is like graphic design and video editing. No, not one person, I never took a video editing course in my life. And again, we
mm,
don't make high production level videos. We're not a videography company. If I was, I don't think that, I'd be able to go out and do this, but just the way that we do tons of cuts for social media. And we're able to get some advice on different types of equipment and different cameras and different softwares. And like, I feel pretty confident, in my video editing abilities. I think it's, again, something that will serve us going forward, no matter what we do, no matter what industry, no matter whatever else, video as a marketing channel or methodology or asset, is only going to grow. So.
what advice would you give to someone who's just starting a marketing firm or just being a creator in general? What's like some key points and some stuff? I mean, if you could go back and tell yourself some important advice, what would you say?
I think one of the biggest things, both as a marketer and as a creator, I think this rings true for both of those functions, is that you'll hear it said over and over again, but somehow you don't really get how important it is in the beginning. Like you just don't quite get it until all of a sudden you find yourself like in a situation. But you have to really be confident and clear on what you do. Because people will come to you all the time. If you're in a marketing firm and say, oh, if they like your service, do you do this? Do you do that? Do you SEO? Do you email? Do you do lead gen? And again, marketing is huge. Marketing is a huge discipline. It is, I don't really think it's the way of things anymore in the marketing world to be a generalist, unless you're a huge firm, because again, marketing is so broad. So in the beginning, we ended up just really spinning our wheels a lot because we were trying to do what the clients wanted us to do rather than us doing what we do well for our clients, if that makes any sense. So just getting really crystal clear about like what's your like magic crisscross of passion and ability that's going to help you serve other people, and to really try to let those things, that intersection, those values, those abilities, drive your organization more than being driven by the customer. And maybe some people would say that's completely wrong. Do whatever your customer wants you to do. But I think at least in a creative, or in a marketing aspect, that would be my recommendation to someone who's getting started today in the world that we're living in today.
Be confident and know what you do.
Yeah.
So how do you balance your professional development with your personal life and other commitments? And what strategies have you found to be most effective? I remember earlier you mentioned your work-life balance is really strong because you can get off when you're sick, and if you need to go out, you have personal health days. But what about on the regular days when it's just you're swamped with work, you got to go, I don't know, walk the dog or something? Like when you got other commitments, how would you handle that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is to set boundaries, because again, in the beginning, we did not do that, and I especially did not do that. Anytime somebody emailed me, I was opening on my computer. You know what I mean? Anytime somebody called, we'd pick it up. And so we've put some hard boundaries. Not that we won't ever do work on nights or the weekends, but like one of the things for us, like dinner is sacred. We don't meet during dinner. We're together for dinner, whether we're out or in or whatever else. Like dinner, we won't take a call unless it is like a truly god awful emergency. Like dinner is sacred. And I think another thing too is accountability on those boundaries after you set them, because that's a real easy thing. Everyone's like, oh, be done with work at 5, or make sure you set aside your me time on Sunday morning. Whatever that boundary is, we're real good about thinking about those and writing them down maybe, or putting them on our calendar. But then like when push comes to shove, you actually have to do it. You actually have to do it. And so sometimes accountability is what you need. So again, whether it's, again, I'm lucky enough to work with my husband, have a good relationship. So again, he'll give me those gentle reminders if I need them. Like, what are you doing? You're not checking your email, are you? But I think that could be anybody. It could be a coworker, it could be a friend, it could be a family member. Like if you say, all right, Sunday mornings are going to be sacred for me, ask that person to check in with you. Ask them to send you a text message on Sunday morning. Be like, hey, like, what are you doing for your free time today? Set up that accountability to reinforce the boundary.
It's got to be so much nicer to have a partner to be able to that lives with you, to be able to hold you accountable. Like, yeah. So we got some humorous ones to end.
Okay.
Maybe about 5 more. If you could rename your company, what would you name it and why?
I've batted this around a couple of times. Our name is Bell Media Group, and we call it BMG. Like we often will just shorten it, both in writing and in spoken. But one of the big things that we do, or one of our favorite services, is on-site media, where we actually go on with clients. I've actually had the opportunity to go to London with a client. We've gone to different like facilities and warehouses with clients just to shoot video, make those real boots on the ground social media posts. It's been pretty awesome. So I always thought like we could rename the company or that portion of it, or that division, OMG, like OMG, for on-site media group instead of Bell Media Group. But again, we wouldn't change our whole business that way. But I just was like, I don't know, maybe I'm super lame. But I was like, that's so
That's
cute,
got a nice ring
OMG,
to it. Yeah,
OMG Media. So yeah.
I like that. If you could swap jobs with anyone in your company, who would it be and why? It doesn't necessarily got to be like the job itself, but maybe just a little perk of the job, or maybe just something about the person.
Yeah. I mentioned him earlier, but probably our graphic designer. Again, just because I'm like jealous of how much he gets to create sometimes. He's probably not, because he's under the gun a fair amount. He is our lead designer, and he influences like all of our visuals across the board for ourselves and for our clients.
Wow.
So he does have a big job to do. But sometimes I'm like, oh my God, it'd be so nice to just like put my headphones on and just like make beautiful things, I would say not worry about anything. But yeah, that's probably what I would choose.
The creative side of you really wants that.
Yeah.
If you could add a ridiculous job perk to your role, what would it be?
Ridiculous job. This is like like again, probably really stupid answers. But something I always wish, and this is like not a perk, it's a tax thing, but I don't know why you can't purchase clothing and shoes on company cards. Like there's stuff that I need for business that I would not wear. I had to go spend like $50 on shoes this weekend because my other ones are worn out. And like the only reason I'm buying them is for work. It's not for me. I wouldn't buy these lady shoes like for myself for fun.
Of course.
So it's like it's not even really a perk. That's a really stupid answer. But it's the first thing I thought of, because I can't tell you how many times I'm like, man, I wish I could charge clothing on my company card.
I mean, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
When it's for like business stuff, you're not your regular clothes. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, not for like something to go to a bar and or go to a winery in, or like what, not something like that, but truly stuff for business.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't want to go to like Hollister, American Eagle with a company card. That probably
I
wouldn't
don't think so. No, I don't think so.
If you could describe your job only using emojis, which emojis would you pick? As a creator, this is probably something you could do.
I would do 3. I would do the one with the eye hearts, you know what I mean, with the heart eyes, because like we love stuff. Like whenever like my social media specialist puts up a video, or somebody like, or Anthony sends over like a graphic, I'm always like, oh, like I love it. So I'd put the heart eyes on it. I would put the laugh crying face. Because there are a lot of just like silly things that like there's just a lot of silly things that happen. And then the last one for sure that we use a lot is the melting happy face, where you're like trying to keep your happy face on, but you're like dying inside. That happens a lot too. So
okay, nice. Yeah. The dying inside part. All right. All right. Final question. If you were trapped in the office overnight, well, I guess this is at home, What office supply would you use to defend yourself against the office ghost?
I will. I'm thinking about if I was in the old office.
Mhm.
Office supply. I mean, the best thing I can think of is probably like the stapler, but not like just handheld, like opening it up so you got those little teeth coming out.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah.
go with
You
the
can do some
teeth on the
damage with that.
stapler. That's what I
Oh,
was
for
thinking.
sure.
Yeah, because those little sharp things poking out doesn't seem like a lot, but I mean, it was a pretty benign office. You know what I mean? It was very
I don't
like,
know how effective that'll be against a ghost though. That might
I don't
be
think you would either.
maybe like a
Maybe more
lamp.
like a burglar. Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
usually the vacuum cleaner. Vacuum cleaner. That's a better
Vacuum
answer.
cleaner.
Yeah, just come up.
That'd be
So
perfect. That'd be perfect.
yeah.
Well, that wraps up. Thank you so much for coming and talking with me. I appreciate the time. I appreciate the patience, and thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate you giving me, the opportunity and the platform to answer some of your questions and tell part of my story.
Of
So thanks
course.
very much for your time today.
Of course.